Okay, giving medals to divisions is a new thing. It's something that most of the time I forget about, but it's a really good way of spending your political power more late game. You go into your officer cores, you go into officers, and then you search for citations, which you can give them a medal. And you probably played Germany with this, and you probably thought, oh, some of these are pretty good, and some of them are not so good. Citations aren't the same for every country in the game. And for the most part, some nations get some absolutely groundbreakingly OP ones, and some not so good. So why don't we just take a look at some of these stats? Maybe you'll learn how the stats work. And then also, why don't we put them into a tier list and actually find out who has the best medals for divisions in Hearts of Iron 4. Let's go. So what better place to start is with Germany. Officers, citations, and we'll select you. So the Iron Cross is one of the more interesting focuses. So be aware, organization feels like the most part a really good stat to have because it means you can defend longer and you can attack longer. The downside to that is if you are fighting longer and you are losing, you're going to be taking more damage to the division, therefore losing more manpower and more equipment. And that applies the same onto the attack. If you're fighting into a situation that's hopeless, you're going to be fighting longer, taking more casualties, and taking potentially more losses with it as well. So it's one of those things that if you have a really good division, like a really nice tank division, this is amazing because it does a lot of damage anyway. However, be aware if it's fighting for longer in a desperate situation, it might not be the right thing to do. For the most part, Iron Cross is good, but it's not the best. Trust me, there's going to be better ones. We'll come back to that. Next up, we have the Knight's Cross, which gains extra reconnaissance. This will increase the chance of you countering enemy tactics and getting the tactics that actually the ones you actually want. It is more of a defensive measure, hence the reason why would you want to go for this one? For the most part, there's probably hidden stats behind this and more testing that is required, but from what the testing that has been done, it turns out the reconnaissance is just really, really rubbish. It is one of those things that maybe in the old days of Hoi 4 that used to matter so much, but at the moment it's more of a defensive thing. It doesn't seem to bear much fruit in actual results. So unfortunately, it is going down to a D tier. Sorry, reconnaissance. The Knight's Cross is poo. Anyway, speaking of the Knight's Cross, we have the Knight's Cross Oak Leaves, which reduces supply. Guys, does this need a lot of explanation? Supply is probably one of the main mechanics in Hearts of Iron 4. When you have less supply consumption, you can make bigger divisions. And with bigger divisions, you can do more firepower. And with more firepower, you can win battles. At the end of the day, reducing supply is a win in all scenarios. And trust me, in every Hearts of Iron 4 game, you're going to run into a situation where you're going to be low supply. It happens wherever, even if you're in France, even if you're in Germany, there will be locations you have low supply. This is useful in all scenarios. And it is, for the most part, probably one of the better medals to give your divisions. And finally, for Germany, we have the Knight's Cross Swords and Diamonds, which gives a bonus to breakthrough. This is pretty good too. However, there are some ones for other nations that give more bonuses. So remember, whenever the game talks about defense, it also gives defense stat, which is on the defensive, and also breakthrough stat on the offensive. It's kind of like armor, but this only gives specifically breakthrough. And as you see later on, we're going to find more and more of these that have better stats overall. So for the most part, breakthrough is good on a tank division that has a lot of breakthrough anyway, but for the most part, there are better options to select from. Personally, when I play Germany, I will stack at least 3 of these onto supply consumption because it gives diminishing returns. There's no point stacking like 5 of these. It just doesn't give much of a result otherwise. And then secondly, I'll start adding on some division organization. So probably 3 on supply and then 3 on org. And then maybe if I've got anything left over, I'll go for breakthrough. How about the United Kingdom? Wow, how did this happen? He managed to take a bunch of key cities inside of Germany. That must have been magic. And he's granted a bunch of citations from that. Congratulations. Ooh, look at how colorful the British ones are. First of all, Oak Leaves Dispatchers gives a recon bonus when entrenched. You already know where this ranks, guys. Recon only when entrenched is bizarre. It is one of the bonuses you do get for your generals as well for Ambusher, but Ambusher also just gives entrenchment as well anyway. Once again, from my testing of reconnaissance, it seems to work better on the defensive, so kind of pairing it with entrenchment does kind of work. But if you looked at the German one, we actually already get reconnaissance on the attack and the defensive. So for the most part, this is absolutely rubbish. And if the German one's rubbish, this one that only works for defensively for entrenchment is even more rubbish. This is a D-. Next up, Order of the British Empire gives plus 10 HP. Now, there's no nothing wrong with a bit of HP, particularly on a tank division that has particularly lower HP, or specifically in an artillery division that has loads and loads of actual line artillery. However, there's just so many better bonuses here, and for the most part, this just ranks incredibly low, just based on what the stats it gives. For the most part, you don't want to focus so much on preservation of your divisions. You want to focus on winning those battles. And unfortunately, this is more of a defensive one. Giving it a C tier, it has a use, but for the most part, it isn't quite niche. That's right. Take a shot every time Dave says niche. There's a lot coming. Now, this is a spicy one. Distinguished Service Order. Division Defense plus 7.5%. Now, as I mentioned to you before, defense has hidden stats behind it. It works like breakthrough. So when you're on the defensive, you gain defense points. And when you're on the breakthrough, you give breakthrough points. This gives both. That's right. It gives actually both. It will give you breakthrough and it will actually give you defense. But it doesn't top reduction of supply, which is really, really good. Finally, the Victoria Cross, which is like a really big one for the British Army, which is surprisingly kind of at the bottom and gives kind of a lukewarm bonus. 15% is the same as a Genius Division Recovery High Command. It's decent, but remember, it only affects one division. So for the most part, it's good because it means your divisions will be fighting for longer. But overall, there are just so many more stats that give bigger bonuses, so I wouldn't recommend actively pursuing this one. So as Britain, I would personally go for defense first and then focus on the recovery rate. They're the only two that really are worth your time. If you're in a situation that maybe you've got a tank division that's got a lot of citations, maybe you'd think about HP as well. But for the most part, it is a secondary to Distinguished Service Order and the Victoria Cross. Oh la la, it's the France. Took place in the siege of Frankfurt and Nuremberg. Did they now? Here we go. The Combatant's Cross, giving max entrenchment of an extra 10%. You know, I've just had a really random moment here, and I remembered that there are extra bonuses that are hidden when you hover over them. Let me just double check of the other countries if there are any hidden ones that I missed. And here it is, guys. Look. Knight's Cross, Oak Leaves, when you hover over it, it gives supply reduction, which you already know about because this is what you've got here, but it also gives army fuel consumption reduction of 7.5%. As you can imagine, for a tank division, or it has a flamer attached to it, this is going to significantly reduce the amount of fuel. This is amazing. The British ones do not have any hidden bonuses, sadly. Anyway, back to France. We have Combatant's Cross, which gives extra 10% entrenchment and also recon bonus when entrenched plus 10%. Once again, this might be a flavor-based thing. I'm not a big fan of defensive bonuses. I think this is, for the most part, kind of useless. At the end of the day, in Hoi 4, if you're a competent player, you're going to be in a situation you're only going to be defending for a very short period of time before you resume the offensive. So unfortunately, Combatant's Cross, nice that it gives the two bonuses, but overall, it's not very useful. Next up, we have the War Cross, and it is another 7.5% improvement to the organization. And I've just realized that is actually less than what the German one gets. I thought it was 7.5% for the German, where it's not. Wow, that really sucks. So it's going to be, unfortunately, be a C tier, where the Iron Cross for the Germans gives us 10% bonus. Paradox love Germany, evidently. Next up, we have Army Fuel Consumption minus 15%. Hey, no doubt about it, this is pretty good. Of course, it's only going to be on divisions that consume a lot of fuel, but 15% is bloody massive. So no doubt about it, that's definitely an A tier. The only downside to it is that the Knight's Cross moves ahead just slightly, just based on that it reduces fuel usage and supply. And to be honest, part supply is the most important one. The next one is the Legion of Honor. It reduces supply consumption by 10% and it gives a bonus of 5% defense. Wow. I think there's no doubt about it, guys. But I think we have a new king. 10% is amazing, which is better than the German one, which makes up for the lack of bonus you get for War Cross. But 5% defense? That's amazing. There's no doubt about it. That French one is mad strong. Next up, it's time for the Italy. Okay, first of all, War Merit Cross gives you division recovery rate of 7%, but it also gives equipment capture ratio modifier. If my understanding is correct, that's a bonus to capture ratio, regardless of any support equipment that's had it on. Because one of the issues you find with Ethiopia, this is such a random piece of information, but Ethiopia has the scavenger national focus here, which gives an increased capture ratio of 40%, but it's 40% increase to what you already currently get. So in this case, if you've got the scavenger trait, it goes from 3% to something like 3.2%, something like that. So 40% increase and based upon that original number. But this looks like, as Italy, it's giving you a base amount of 10% capture, which is just really useful in those situations where you're bleeding equipment, potentially if you're battle planning. I suppose the only downside to this one is that you don't tend to give these medals out, these citations, early game when you would make the most advantage of this capture ratio. So it's kind of like, wow, the bonuses are really good. However, when would you ever really take advantage of them? When are you ever in a situation where you've got a lot of political power? But no doubt about it, guys, I think that is a really decent bonus. And I actually really want to give it an A tier. And it's probably A plus 2. It's really close to S tier just because it does so much. Next up, Cross of Valor gives 5% HP and 5% breakthrough. It's okay. Some of those bonuses are a little bit on the low end. And it's nice that it gives breakthrough as well as a little bit of HP as well. So it's kind of like slightly better than the Knight's Cross for Germany. So it is kind of a B+, but overall, still. HP is something that you only really use for tanks. And I suppose it pairs well with the breakthrough too, I suppose, because what tank's going to have the most of. I suppose this is going to be useful in that instance when you are making the most ideal tank division. Okay, the Order of Savoy, 5th class. This reduces supply by 10%, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. And then you're also like, hang on, this reduces my defense. I can't even tell this is intentional. What? So this medal makes him crap at defense. I don't get it. When would you be handing this out? When are you actively saying that my defense is too high, so I need to reduce it? Oh, I so want to give this I'm giving it a D. I'm giving it a D. When are you actively wanting to reduce the stats of your division? No. Order of Savoy, 1st class, gives 5% attack. A. At the end of the day, attack will give you more soft attack, give you more hard attack, gives you more breakthrough. It hits where it hits. It hits hard, put it that way. There's some really interesting bonuses for Italy. Well, the first one's pretty decent. The second one is kind of niche. Like tanks again. Third one is like, why would you ever select this one? Even though 10% supply is pretty cool. And the fourth one is like, that's kind of handy to have. It's kind of like they're really good, but then also kind of like, I don't know. Next up, Mr. Stalin. The Red Army. Battle Merit Medal, giving you 15% division recovery rate. So we've already had this one so far. And as you can see, you reach a certain point where you realize some of these do repeat. And it is basically the Victoria Cross once again, which is a straight up A tier. For the most part, it's a big bonus. 15% is massive. Next up, the Order of Kutsov. 15% entrenchment. Goes without a doubt. Once again, it's the maximum amount of entrenchment we've ever seen so far. But when are you ever thinking more about digging in and defending? I guess it's better than the 10% you get with the Combatant's Cross, I suppose. But still, entrenchment, it's okay. The Order of the Red Banner, giving 7.5% extra HP. Once again, it's another one of those ones where like, why would we want to do that? I'm going to give this one a straight up D tier. And next up, we have the Hero of the Soviet Union. Gives you plus 10% organization. It's good, I suppose. But once again, doesn't really do as much. Man, the Soviet Union ones aren't very good. The only one that really stands out is the entrenchment one, which I feel they need to move this to a B tier because it is better than the Combatant's Cross anyway. But for the most part, still, when are you digging in? When are you defending? It's just something that you just tend to not do very frequently. Japan! We have moved to Asia. Okay, we have the Military Medal of Honor giving 7.5% recovery rate. Once again, it's okay. For these ones that repeat, I feel like not really including them, but whatever. It is your classic C tier anyway. Next up, the Order of the Sacred Treasure. Man, these names are so epic. Giving more division recovery. They've got 2 that gives division recovery, and HP is probably one of the weakest stats anyway. Japan. I'm going to straight up go with a D tier on that one. I suppose the most part, it gives 2 bonuses, but you've got one that gives 7.5%. I suppose. Oh, this is one thing I've forgotten about. They have diminishing returns. You get to take advantage of twice as many of these bonuses when you stack them on top of each other. Ooh, that's something I've not thought of. So that means potentially the amount of division recovery rate you can add on to a Japanese division is actually incredibly high if you were to stack, let's say, 6 citations. But when we ever get 6 citations? That's the big question. So there's a part of me that wants to rank this one up just in that one scenario where you've got lots of citations. Next one is really interesting. Order of the Golden Kite gives supply reduction as well as extra attack. Hey, there's no doubt about it. This is probably, so far, the best one in the game. No doubt about it, which kind of makes me think to myself that the other ones are a lot worse because this is the one you would always naturally go to anyway. I mean, at the end of the day, it's giving you supply reduction, which is amazing, which is hard, which is even relevant too because Japan push into China, and that's a difficult nation to break because the supply consumption is bad, so it's definitely worth it. And then finally, the Order of the Chorazan Mum. Yeah, the Mum. 10% extra breakthrough. Same as Germany. It is basically okay. You get an extra 2.5% extra more on top of the German one. So I suppose it's a little bit better than the German one. So it's a B plus basically, with a B minus for the German one. USA. USA! And the citations are this. The Bronze Star, giving you extra organization as well as extra recovery rate. It's kind of like it does both, but neither of them are any good. I suppose the added reward is the fact that you get both of them, which is kind of cool, which I think for the most part deserves an A tier. Next up, we have the Silver Star, which reduces supply consumption. I mean, it's a win. I suppose that for the most part, it ends up being better than the Knight's Cross because it gives an extra 2.5 supply consumption, where the Knight's Cross just gives supply consumption. So, oh man, the American one is the win. I felt like I could order them a little bit. Like these ones that give extra bonuses, extra defense for France, extra attack for Japan. But this one just gives a flat 10% for USA and 7.5% for Germany. Next one is Distinguished Service Cross, giving 5% extra attack. It's okay. It's good, but it's not the best. I'll give it a B. Next up, the Medal of Honor. Experienced soldier losses minus 20%. Wow. This is difficult to gauge because this one's so unbelievably different. So this kind of would work like a field hospital, I'd imagine, to where experience loss is reduced by 20%. So it's basically a field hospital that comes along for the ride. That's how it kind of feels like what this is doing. This one needs testing to know how good it is. It's definitely spicy because it does something different. The question is the bonus enough to kind of make it worth your time? And for the most part, you've heard my opinion of field hospitals. I don't really think they're very good. I'm going to put this right in the middle at a C tier. I have a feeling this requires more testing to know how good it actually is. But for the most part, it is a field hospital added on to a single division for free. The People's Republic of China, Commie China, basically. So some of these are kind of repeated from before, so I don't want to go too much in depth with the ones that are on repeat, but I'm going to go over some of the best ones. The Distinguished Service Medal gives minus 15% supply consumption, which is the highest one we've had so far, and also minus 15% army fuel consumption. That is the best one we've had so far. The only downside to this is your China, Commie China, you don't really have a lot of production until you kind of form Big China, so you're not really going to have the divisions that are going to consume a lot of fuel anyway. But overall, supply consumption is a straight win. That is really, 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 really good. Next is Red Star, giving recovery rate and defense. Pretty standard. 10% organization. That's pretty standard. And HP. We'll just leave those for now. Next up, we've got regular Nationalist China, the Cross of Bravery, giving 5% defense and plus 10% entrenchment. So it's like a double down on defense, isn't it? And I suppose with the defense as well, you get to take advantage of the offensive capabilities with Breakthrough as well. The Military Order, we've got minus 15% supply consumption, which is amazing. And also division recovery. I feel like that one's even better than the Commie China one. Because at the end of the day, you're going to take advantage of recovery rate as China more so than a fuel consumption reduction. And there's some really hidden spicy ones here that they've locked behind. Next up, 5% attack, pretty standard. Next one is 5% recovery rate and also 20% soldier experience losses. It's basically the Medal of Honor again, but with recovery rate. Some of the designs on the graphics here are amazing too. I think what's really impressive with this is the amount of attention to detail. Oh, these are basically the same ones as the China one, I guess. Very similar anyway. Next up, we've got Spain, Cross of Bravery, Military Order, Order of the Sword. Okay, so it looks like these are generic ones, even though the generic ones are really strong too, because that 15% supply consumption is big. Okay, the Netherlands, we have the Medal of Gallantry, giving recovery rate. It's pretty standard. Minus 15% supply consumption. Good, because it's such a big number. Warcross, giving defense and reconnaissance. Standard. And also Order of the Lion. Soldier losses of experience minus 25%, which is 5% more than America. And also Commie China, which is interesting. Because this is a Paradox game, clearly Paradox may have sneaked in a few spicy bonuses for our good buddies at Sweden, right? It would be very strange if they didn't. So it does look like these are generic ones again. So recovery rate 10%, finance 15% supply, Warcross, even defense and reconnaissance, and Order of the Lion again. Okay, these are Danish ones. Recovery rate, supply consumption, reconnaissance, defense. Okay, they're all generic ones. It kind of looks like in a different theater, like Northern Europe, they give them generic ones, and there's like Asian generic ones as well. Canada. Once again, these are generic ones once again. So it looks like all the major powers have got flavor. Mexico, yeah, the standard. One final thing to check. The Greek ones. And yeah, the Greek ones have good generic ones as well. It looks like some of the European-centric ones seem to be a little bit better overall. Eurocentric Paradox. What the hell? You know, I was expecting here to find some bonuses that I wasn't aware of that were really spicy. It would make a massive difference to how I play the game. But for the most part, The ones that are always wins are the ones that reduce supply consumption. Just to reiterate, it's because it's not only benefiting that one division, but it's a benefit in the entirety of the army on the front line. When you reduce the supply of a single division, you're also reducing the supply of the entirety of the front line. So therefore, giving an easy time for the entirety of the front line as well. But overall, when it gives multiple bonuses as well, reducing army consumption with fuel supplies, as well as recovery rate, as well as ones that give double bonuses as well, are always a win as well. It is overall a win-win for the entirety of the army. My only advice though is be very careful what medals you give to what divisions. For instance, if it's a tank division, reducing fuel consumption is a win, giving extra attack and breakthrough is a win, but would definitely benefit a less from division recovery rate and probably be less from, let's say, HP or experienced soldier losses plus minus 20% or something like that. I would definitely say one thing's for certain though. The ones that give bonuses to entrenchment or reconnaissance, they overall are the weakest kind. GG, no re. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want more Hoi 4 kind of content, this video is recommended by the YouTube gods. This video is the one that has been selected just for you. And this one will meet your needs exactly. Give it a click.